Hi, my name is Krishna Vishnu-Butler, and we'll take the next few minutes to show you the demo of how you can use our zScan GitHub Action to scan your mobile apps free for 30 days as part of our trial. Okay, let's get started. What you're looking at is my GitHub repository. I have two repositories. I'm going to create a new public repository for this. I'm going to choose myself as an owner. I'm going to make this public so that code scanning and GHAS, which is GitHub's Advanced Security License, is available by default to the repo. And I'm just going to create a repo. Going back to all my repos, go to repos here. You can see my new repository that I created. Now, if you go into the repository, you go into security, you will see code scanning is already available here. And you see setups code scanning is already available, security advisory, security policy. All of these are enabled because you're in a public repo. Now, next, we're going to the GitHub Marketplace, and we're going to search for the zScan action. Type zScan. Once you get to Zimperium zScan, you will get to the page which will tell you what value zScan action provides, an example workflow, and a lot of instructions to help you access the GitHub action. Now, if you are already a zScan customer, you will follow this initial set of instructions in step 1. But assuming you are not a zScan customer and you are looking to enroll in the 30-day free trial, first you need to do is fill out the registration form. Look like this. I'm going to go ahead and give my details. Now make sure you provide a valid business email because a key will be sent to this email that you're using during the registration. As soon as you submit, you will be given an API secret key. So I'm going to copy and save this key. This key is very important. So please make sure you save this key for configure later. I'm going to save this key here. I'm going to go back. It tells you what can happen if you lost this key. You have to wait for another 24 hours before requesting it. It also says an API client ID has been emailed to me. And it tells you that your subscription ends 30 days from now. So let me go to my email and find my API client ID. Email, I just got an email that says, hey, this is your API client ID. So I'm going to take this, also save this as my API. API client ID. So now I have two keys. I have an API secret key and API client ID, and I need both of those. Now let me go back to the instructions. Now you have a secret key and the client ID. Enable GHAS. This is only if you are an enterprise GitHub account. Since we're in a public repo, all of these things are already set for us. Moving to step 3, we need to add a repository secret. So we're going to go back to our public repo, we're going to go into settings. We're going to go into secrets and variables and actions. Here we will say new repository secret, and we will add our API secret as a new repository secret, right? So I'm going to go back, get my API secret key, and add it and say add secret. This allows us to use the key when we create workflows. Going back, now we are going to step 4, add and configure a zScan workflow in GitHub. To add a workflow, you need to go into security, code scanning. You need to click configure code scanning tool because you're using a third-party tool. And you can say other tools, explore workflows. Here, instead of deployment, click security, click code scanning, scan. You have zScan, and say configure. When you hit configure, you will see a zscan.yaml file open up. Now here, you need to replace the client environment and the client ID. Now, in my example, I'm not using any Gradle functionality, so I'm going to comment this out since I'm using this YAML file standalone. The client environment name, if you go back to the action, right? The client environment is called Maps Freemium for the free trial. So I'm going to change this to Maps Freemium. Your client ID is what was given to you via email. So I'm going to go back here and grab my client ID and replace this. So now you have your Maps Freemium and your client ID, and you've already stored your API key in the secret. I've commented out the Gradle because I'm running this as a standalone action. And then I will go ahead and commit the changes. Configured, I'm just going to put in a note, configured for zScan action. Commit changes. As soon as you commit changes, the action automatically runs. So here you can see my zscan.yaml file triggered. But one other thing I need to do is if you go back to my repository, I need to provide a app. Now you can get, I have apps that are already saved on my PC called GitHub zScan. Vulnerable apps to scan, and I'm going to use this Insecure Bank V2 app. And I'm just going to upload it into my repo. Right now, this is an open source app you can find in GitHub. I just uploaded it right under my repository. So what I'm going to do is go back to my workflow, my zScan YAML file. And here, I'm going to change the file name to what I just uploaded. So the file name I uploaded // because it's right in the repository. And this is called Insecure Bank V2. And I'm going to commit changes. They update the app location to be scanned. And I'm just committing directly into the main branch. And if I go to actions, you can see these two failed because we did not indicate the app's location. But now the scan is running. And as you can see, the scan will progress for a few minutes. Essentially, what the functionality of the action is at this point is it has taken the file or the mobile application you have selected, and via the zScan action, it has sent it to our binary scanning platform called zScan. And at this point, it's waiting for our platform to return all the findings back to GitHub via the APIs. The advantage of this is if you're a developer or a DevOps engineer working in GitHub, you do not need to access another console during this, right? All the results from your mobile app scan are returned right into GitHub where you're already working. And that is a big advantage of a GitHub action. Since it's an action, if you're already used to the GitHub platform, you're very used to integrating it into the workflows. So the YAML file that I showed, and I'll go back to it in just a second, we'll let this run. If you see the workflow here, this piece of code that I just used can be cut and pasted into an existing workflow that you might already have, right? That's the other advantage of accessing this capability via an action is if you have a mobile app release process, as soon as your app is built, you can add this to your existing workflow so that it's automatically scanned once it's done. So let's go back. You can see it's still running. We'll go back to the action. Right, so the app should probably take another minute or two. It takes about 4 minutes for the size of the app that I have. And eventually what we want to do is all the findings, once they are returned to GitHub, you want to be able to see them within this security tab, right? The security tab within GitHub has something called code scanning alerts. And once the scan finishes, we're going to set up code scanning so that all the findings that are returned in serif format are automatically displayed in this platform. Right, so we're going to go back, keep an eye on the scan. It should almost be complete. So as we wait for the scan, so what type of findings is zScan going to return? zScan is a mobile app binary scanner, right? So it's focused not on code quality, but also on on code within your mobile app that can be abused, whether it's by downloading it from the App Store, reverse engineering it, or abused on an end user device via malware, right? So the findings are very mobile specific and they're looking for abuse and not necessarily code quality, which is why zScan is very, very different from your traditional scanner. We'll give it a few minutes to end. It should end about now. So give it a few minutes and then the scan has completed at this time, as you can see. You can go into security. And now we want to view the alerts or the findings in GitHub itself. And now you see it says code scanning alerts. It says automatically enabled is green because the scan completed. I'm going to click on view alerts. And now you see there is 36 under the security tab. And these are all the results, all the findings from the app scan that has been returned. And an easy way to parse some of these is one, you can do it by severity. You can do it by rule. You can look for, hey, you're worried about things that have been hard-coded. You can search for it. So you can look at it different ways. But once you go into a certain finding, for example, let's take one of this, reverse engineering, which is a very important one. It will give you the description, what is the business impact, and what is the recommendation that you should follow, right? So each and every one of them. Now it'll also show you whether this violation that we found is associated with any regulatory or security standards. This one says it's associated to HIPAA, it's associated to the OWASP M9, it's associated to PCI, and the CW number as well. So the scan gives you plenty of information around what the scan is, why it should matter to you, and what you can do to remediate that issue. And the idea is for developers to look at this information, remediate it, and then scan every build that comes through the system, right? That's all we have for now. I hope you found this demo short and simple. If you are interested in the free trial and would you like to know more about our zScan binary scanning solution, please feel free to reach out.